Snow elf lore. Why should you care? Well, there's really no reason as to why, but if you were intrigued by their story as I was and don't really understand what happened to them, then you've come to the right place. Snow elves. What were they? Who could they have become? After the events that played out for them, it seems we will never know. What we do know is that snow elves are actually the true natives of Skyrim, and the Nords, back then known as Ardmora, took over. The question I had was why? Why invade someone else's territory and run them out? Did they deserve it? Was it possible that the Nords weren't the bad guys? Well, that is for you to decide. Some background knowledge. Snow elves originally coexisted with Nords after Ysgramor fled from his homeland, not town. Jesus. I'm sorry. Atmora, to avoid the civil war that was going on. This caused Tamriel's Nord population to grow big enough for them to build their own cities, thus creating Sarthal. It is here where the first dispute erupts. The Snow Elves attacked the Nords in Sarthal, and though there is no certain reason as to why, many have narrowed it down to two conclusions. The first being that the Mer felt threatened by the Nords, noticing the increase in population, and it brought out fear. Although the more likely reason is that they knew about the Eye of Magnus and they wanted to keep the power for themselves. Either way, the Snow Elves made the first move, and perhaps the move that obliterated, okay, that's a little dramatic, doomed their entire race. The Mer had thought they killed all the Nords, however Ysgramor and his sons are the only ones to have escaped. They returned to Ardmora and found that the civil war had ended. He could return home and stay there, right? Wrong. Obviously Ysgramor is going to want revenge on the race that killed a majority of his people. He told the rest of Atmora the tales of the elves' treachery. Eventually they forged a whole army, ready to get the vengeance they seeked on the elves. And rightfully so, yes? Or maybe not. The elves were just defending themselves, right? Attacking people with no signs of hostility? Perhaps they felt threatened by the increasing number of Atmoras. It doesn't matter the reason, because they had opened a door that couldn't be closed. Ysgramor started taking back Sarthal, where he stumbled upon a very powerful mage, perhaps the reason the Nords had won this battle. Regardless, it has certainly increased their chances of victory. This man's name was, I can't even pronounce that name without butchering it, so I'm gonna just toss that up right here on the screen. Turns out the elves had murdered his family, and he had spent his entire time here, working to get revenge, studying every little thing in order to make him a powerful mage and gain leverage on the battlefield. Obviously, he's going to work with Ysgramor, because he has no reason not to. So he works, helps enchant the military's weapons, and though many fell to the elves, Ysgramor eventually won in taking back Sarthal. He had gotten his revenge, right? He could stop there. Nope. Reclaiming Sarthal wasn't enough. After reclaiming Sarthal, the Circle of Kings was assembled. Basically, in brief, the Circle of Kings was a circle of honorable captains. The Circle of Kings was then able to make their own paths and separate. This started the great expansion of Nords throughout Tamriel and the mass genocide of elves. Was this really necessary? Who cares? The elves attacked first. This expansion spread from Skyrim to the far southern marshes of Blackmarsh, and even all the way to Solstheim, where many snow elves fled. Back in Skyrim, Ysgramor eventually fought the snow elves into the area which is now commonly known as Eastmarch. After this, he sees his son's grave once more and in grief, built not only a city, but also the bridge across White River. So now, snow elves could not pass and get revenge on their kin without him knowing. The last snow elf commander had fallen in Solstheim. With the snow prince dead, it became evident that all was truly lost. Many surviving snow elves pled the Dwemer for aid, and they were offered it. However, and though it is unknown if the elves knew this, the Dwemer had given them a fungus that rendered them blind and blinded their offspring. Perhaps the fate was a bit too harsh, but was it deserved? This caused the snow elves to morph into what is now known as the falmer. It was a harsh betrayal, and eventually the falmer became slaves to the Dwemer. What few that weren't betrayed tried to find refuge in the chantry of Ariel. However, they were quickly cut down by their fellow falmer brethren, the only two remaining elves being Knight Paladin Gelibor and Archcurate Viathur. I probably butchered those names. Please do not kill me. Oops. Been a while since I've played the Dawnguard DLC. And with Viathur being dead, if you complete the Dawnguard DLC, it seems the species is now on the brink of extinction. An extinction they caused themselves. That was all of the information I had managed to gather. Let me know if I've missed anything. I'm always happy to learn more about Skyrim lore and learn from my mistakes. I often wonder what Skyrim could have been like, perhaps if the elves weren't either so paranoid or so power-hungry. Could the snow elves and Nords have coexisted? It's a shame to see so much potential tossed. However, it does make for quite the thematic tale. Certainly made me think. Thank you for watching, and please leave your thoughts on all this below. Do you think the snow elves deserve some sense of mercy? Were they asking for it? Could turning into the falmer be a too cruel a fate?